Today's presenters are Carla Prelo, OJJDP's Performance Measurement Coordinator, Sarah Wazotsky, OJJDP Research Associate, Rebecca Stevens and Muniba Azam, Training and Technical Assistance and Helpdesk Specialist, and Katie McCarthy, Communications. Please allow me to introduce Carla Prelo from OJJDP.
Good day, everyone. This is Carla, and I'm here to welcome you to our awesome training session where we are going to share and introduce our newly developed performance measures for your program. We are excited to be sharing this with you and the outcome of these measures. So sit back, relax, have your pen and paper ready to jot down some notes as we go through the slides, that you may put those questions you have in the chat box when the time comes. Sit back and enjoy. Have a great day.
Thank you, Carla. We'll start the recording now if we've not already started it. Thank you, Katie. Welcome to the CASA training for grantees. Today, we're going to talk about understanding CASA data, how to prepare it, how to collect it, how to track it, and how to report on your program data. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insights on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be related to time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency's story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we'll go over the revised performance measures. We'll discuss collecting and sharing information that will help us all better understand how well the CASA program is operating and get better acquainted. So, to make this session as interactive as possible, please use the WebEx chat box to respond to any questions that you see on the screen. Answering the question that you see here helps us better understand your needs. What is your biggest issue with collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data? Now, we're going to give everyone a minute to think about that and type their responses into the chat box. While you're doing so, if you'd like to add the name of your organization and your location, that would be great too. And while we wait, we just want to let you know that we appreciate your response and we're curious to know about some of the issues that you're looking at with collecting, tracking, and reporting your data.
I see a few responses coming in here. If you could please send your responses to all participants, just click that drop-down menu, send to, and all participants should pop up. And then that way everyone can see all of the responses. Thank you.
Okay, Sally is posting, and Sally's issue or concern is the consistency in the data we receive from grantees due to various state laws and structures. Thank you, Sally. Brad is posting, working with a vast network of independent programs that individually collect data. Thank you, Brad. Okay, thank you guys. Moving on. The agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic, and what to do with personally identifiable information, also referred to as PII, and those key documents and resources that are available to you. As we progress through the training, all website links mentioned during the training will be presented to you in chat and provided to you in your copy of the presentation that will be emailed to you later this week, potentially on Friday. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measure updates are for your program, understanding the need for a data collection plan for the data you collect between July 2021 and December 2021, and then report come January 2022. This is also known as the who did what. Further, you will gain understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates, also known as the when did they do that. And you're required to submit performance reports twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. Lastly, you will understand where to find supporting resources. Now, in the showcase sessions we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJP.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle, with the goal of reporting in January 2022 using these new measures. Let's remind ourselves of the performance measures process and then discuss the newly updated performance measures found in the CASA program. As you review these performance measures with Sarah, you may recognize many of them, since not all of them were changed in the updating process. Sarah, I'll pass the microphone to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. In the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division, we have several programs. The program we are talking about today is the Court-Appointed Special Advocates Program, as part of the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division. As way of background, the Victims of Child Abuse Act of 1990 states that all abused and neglected children involved in dependency proceedings receive timely, sensitive, and effective advocacy. The court-appointed special advocate is available to every victim of child abuse or neglect in the United States that needs an advocate. The CASA program ensures that abused and neglected children receive high-quality representation in dependency court hearings. CASA is working on the following program outcomes: to increase the number of volunteer special advocates available, to increase the number of child victims of abuse or neglect matched with a special advocate, increase the number of child victims represented by a volunteer advocate, increase the skills of volunteer advocates representing child victims of abuse or neglect, reduce incidences of re-victimization, increase permanency for abused or neglected children, and increase positive developmental outcomes. There are three important things to keep in mind about the CASA program, and they include: which performance measures do the grantees report on? They report on training and technical assistance, child welfare system outcomes, victimization outcomes, protective factors, program quality, and program outcomes. What is different about this program, or some standout features that make it unique? CASA advocates are matched with children to represent them in dependency court hearings. And who are the grant funds intended to help? And they are intended to help victims of child abuse or neglect. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures includes 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are the result of activities such as trainings, meetings, etc. Outcome measures speak to the longer-term program goals. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way you collect data, and that's why we are here today, to ensure that you understand that you will be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the July through December 2021 period come January 30th of 2022, and that you have a plan in place to do so. The performance measures document the progress that you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measure outcomes establishes your program's growth. You can find your program's performance measures at this online location that's up here on the slide. OJJDP identified and organized the newly updated performance measures to include 3 different categories. The categories include overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. In overall measures, grantees will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 different types of populations. 1, shared targeted populations, for example, children involved in the child welfare system or tribal youth. 2, those with a similar service delivery model, so for example, mental health services or prevention services. And 3, those with shared outcomes, for example, youth provided with defense counsel. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired results. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. The National Court-Appointed Special Advocate/Guardian Ad Litem Association for Children supports and promotes court-appointed volunteer advocacy so that every child who has experienced abuse or neglect in the U.S. can be safe, have a permanent home, and have the opportunity to thrive. National CASA offers leadership and support to the network of programs and leads its continued growth. CASA volunteers and staff work every day to help change a child's story. Next, let's look at the performance measures for your program. We won't be able to go through all of them, but I wanted to highlight those that I thought may prompt questions over the next 6-month reporting cycle and continuing through the life of the award. To report on this overall measure, you will report on the number of individuals served by population. This performance measure captures the total number of individuals served, and it's broken down by the number of children, youth, young adults, parents or legal guardians, and additional family members. Since OJJDP funding is targeted to serve children and youth, the various categories of individuals served help OJJDP isolate the true number of children or youth served. This measure also captures the number of individuals who were carried over and the number who were new admissions during the reporting cycle. This is done to avoid duplication. Percentage of eligible individuals who entered out-of-home care is an example of one of the multi-program performance measures and is categorized as a child welfare system outcome measure. To report on this measure, you will collect data on the number of individuals who entered out-of-home care for the first time, the number of individuals placed in a group home for the first time, the number placed in kinship care for the first time, and the number placed in foster care for the first time. The percentage of eligible individuals who entered out-of-home care is calculated by adding A, B, C, and D, and then dividing that number of individuals served during the reporting period. For this program-specific performance measure, the program output is the number of active CASA programs. You will report on both the number of active local CASA programs and the number of active state CASA programs. A CASA program is considered active if it is an established CASA program and is in operation during the reporting cycle. Like the previous program-specific performance measure, the output is the number of new local CASA programs. For this measure, you will record the number of new local CASA programs established during the reporting cycle. This program-specific output measure captures the percentage of new court-appointed special advocates trained and ready to serve individuals during the reporting cycle. A new volunteer advocate is a volunteer who completed training and became available to serve individuals during the reporting cycle. For this measure, you will report on the number of new court-appointed special advocates who have been trained and are now ready to serve individuals, and the number of court-appointed special advocate volunteers who were accepted into the program during the reporting cycle. The percentage is calculated by dividing A over B. This program-specific measure is a simple count of the number of quality assurance surveys collected during the reporting cycle. It is a program outcome measure intended to assess the state and local programs' observation of quality standards. For this next measure, it captures the count of the number of individuals represented by a court-appointed special advocate during the reporting cycle. You will provide the number of new individuals represented by a new court-appointed special advocate, existing individuals represented by a new court-appointed special advocate, new individuals represented by existing court-appointed special advocates, and lastly, existing individuals represented by existing court-appointed special advocates. For this program-specific performance measure, you'll capture the percentage of new court-appointed special advocates who are trained and ready to serve individuals during the reporting cycle. You'll provide the number of new court-appointed special advocates who are trained and ready to serve the individuals during the cycle, which is A, and the number of existing court-appointed special advocates trained and ready to serve individuals during the reporting cycle, which is B. For this, the percentage of new court-appointed special advocates trained is calculated by dividing A over B. And just to hang in there, we're down to our last two that we'll be highlighting. For this measure, the percentage of eligible individuals matched with a CASA volunteer is a program-specific program quality performance measure. You'll provide the number of eligible individuals who were matched with a CASA volunteer and the number of eligible individuals matched with a CASA volunteer and who also received services during the reporting period. And this percentage is calculated by dividing B over A. Lastly, the percentage of programs implemented CASA national standards is a program-specific outcome measure. For this measure, you'll count the number of programs that successfully implemented the CASA national standards based on feedback that was received from the quality assurance surveys that were returned. You'll provide the number of programs that returned quality assurance surveys and the number of programs that indicated they successfully implemented the CASA national standards. The percentage is calculated by dividing B over A. And now I'm going to pass it back to Rebecca so she can go through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. Now that you've reviewed the newly updated performance measures, we have a scenario here for you. So Brenda Sokup, a new CASA grantee, has just received the newly updated performance measures. She's attended this learning event, and she's sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sokup do to prepare for data collection, which is July to December of 2021, and reporting in January of 2022? Please respond in the chat box and let us know how she should get started. Brad has responded, start by identifying the data that needs to be collected and ensuring she has the tools and direction to do so. Erin has responded, ensure she has all appropriate data before starting. Okay. Yes, yes. As you are noting, you want to make sure that you first save a copy of the CASA program performance measures, definitions, and questions to use and reference during planning. You also want to familiarize yourself with the performance measures, noting that some of them may not be entirely new. Many have been adapted and expanded upon from previous performance measures reported on in the past. You will still follow a similar process to collect data on these measures. You will want to determine who will be responsible for capturing and tracking the data and who will be responsible for reporting the data into JustGrants January 2022. And we understand that each program has a unique or slightly different approach to data collection and reporting. And so what you'll want to do is determine what works best for your program. Are there any other responses? If not, we'll move to the next slide. We'll now review several best practices while collecting and tracking data. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation. When creating a data collection plan, best practices often include locating the performance measure for your program, identifying each question that needs to be answered, creating a plan to identify when and how you will collect that data. For example, what type of or tool or instrument would you use to collect the data needed to answer the performance questions that were performance measures that were just presented? Creating a plan is an important step. There are several best practices you can implement when collecting good data for the upcoming reporting cycle. You want to be proactive in your approach, designating staff for the coordination of the performance measure data collection process. You want to review the progress reporting questionnaire before entering data. And you want to ensure that the designated staff participate in all trainings. Lastly, you want to pay attention to communication from JustGrants and, if applicable, review and edit and validate data with sub-grantees before submission. Just briefly, I wanted to mention the grantee and sub-grantee relationship, noting that this relationship adds a unique dimension to data collection, reporting, and analysis. The key item to remember here in a relationship like this is that grantees must monitor sub-grantees to include reviewing all reports for reasonableness and accuracy. You are required to enter data on all performance measures that relate to activities described in your approved OJJDP grant application and carried out with OJJDP funding. As a grantee, you should plan to collect data on behalf of all of your sub-recipients. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions you may want to consider while planning include duration of data collection and document version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage documents over that time period? Will you track them using an Excel spreadsheet? Regarding location and access, how long will you store the data? Who will have access to it? And if it is stored on a shared drive, who is given permissions? Lastly, how will changes be communicated? How will the data be validated and edited if applicable? We will now review several best practices during reporting. In the January 2022 reporting cycle, you will be reporting on the newly revised performance measures as well as narrative questions. Narrative questions provide you with the opportunity to answer or address these topics. What do the numbers you reported on in your performance measures actually mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? You want to use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric output to the tangible outcome. And you want to use specific and detailed concrete examples to illustrate your points. Other things to think about when writing your narrative include providing evidence to support your conclusions and a discussion on what the funding has allowed you to do that you could not have done prior to receiving funding. You may want to include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments to the program. On your screen, you see an example of the rural program narrative. Let's discuss best practices for reporting. Common issues arise since you are required to respond to every question. So when reporting zeros, for example, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a zero value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. Brief descriptions such as we are still in our planning period or there was no activity during the reporting cycle are acceptable responses in JustGrants. Avoiding duplications in count can be very challenging. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager at a site visit, can help ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And as you know, reporting is award-based. Another best practice when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down the funding and create a final report of activities you performed for your oldest award first before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. In this situation, if this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award when you have multiple awards. Lastly, you want to contact JustGrants with any concerns related to error messages found in JustGrants. You can save your data and resume data entry at a later point in time. For more information on this and other items in JustGrants, please visit the YouTube video that's posted on the screen. You may want to contact the PMT Helpdesk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. You're encouraged to reach out to your program manager with questions or concerns as well. Some grantees may receive funding from other awards. As mentioned previously, just a moment ago, and just briefly, a service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, you want to work with your OJJDP program manager to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. This session only focuses on January 2022 reporting. For this July of 2021, all discretionary awards will start collecting data on the updated performance measures. You will be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 come January 2022. Discretionary awards reporting deadlines are July 30th for the reporting period January 1st through June 30th, and January 30th for the reporting period July 1st through December 31st. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, or PII, should be done with consideration towards the Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated, the purpose of the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individual to be protected against unwarranted invasion of their privacy stemming from federal agencies' collection, maintenance, use, and disclosure of personal information. So in accordance with this act, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, you want to keep sensitive PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or any similar locked enclosure. And when using PII, you want to keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You're encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate counts for numerical progress report fields because project partners do not have access to files, for example, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As a best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports as well as with your program specialist. So, how do you report on activities now that they've been shifted to online remote platforms? And when you have not been collecting detailed data on victims served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will now discuss the various resources that you have at your disposal. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we will briefly go over resources and where to find assistance. The PMT Helpdesk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact them by calling the number on the screen or emailing OJJDP PMT at ojp.usdoj.gov. For a faster response, we encourage you to email the Helpdesk. The OJJDP PMT Helpdesk contact information is available on the screen. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PMT Helpdesk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, so please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. If you need JustGrants support or have questions about the JustGrants system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number on the screen between the hours of 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time and Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you experience any issues with JustGrants, we highly encourage you to please contact the JustGrants support. JustGrants information, such as instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports in JustGrants, can be found on the OJJDP.ojp.gov website or by viewing the video on the screen. You can also log into JustGrants at justgrants.usdoj.gov. Now back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Muniba. Let's take a moment to reflect on what was just presented. First, we discussed each of the program-specific measures in the CASA program, noting specific instances where data would need to be collected, the type of data needed, and the process for calculation. Next, we talked about best practices related to planning, collecting, tracking, and reporting on data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle. So what's next? Next steps include the opportunity that we currently have to collect data that will inform change down the road. Now for our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You'll be receiving a fillable feedback form that you are requested to complete and return to the PMT Helpdesk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with plenty of room for narrative. Providing us with feedback on the newly revised performance measures gives us the information we need to fully understand your needs or those challenges that you face implementing that particular measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now on the newly revised performance measures informs the refresh cycle 1 year after the 1-year pilot has occurred and we have identified those changes or updates that need to occur. For now, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make changes to any of the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And with that, we are concluding today's session.